Jaron, and thank you everyone from the AECtech for having me here. It's the first time that we're actually presenting on this conference, but it was yesterday actually the first time that we also got to run one of the workshops. So it's been quite an interesting kind of a couple of days, and I'm super excited to see what's going to happen during this afternoon. So as Jerome mentioned, I'm part of Heatherwick Studio. We are a London-based studio, and today I'm going to be talking about how we kind of use technology and how we engage with kind of different tools related to kind of design and making. So we have, as a studio, for the ones that are not familiar with our work, we have a quite kind of diverse portfolio. We work across kind of geographies and kind of locations, but also scales, and kind of we can design anything from kind of a bridge, to kind of larger scale transportation kind of vehicles. And we can also focus in different programs, as let's say museums, or something as small as a perfume bottle. What we really care about, it's really to create better human experiences and really places that can connect people and create emotional engagement. This is how our studio looks like in London, although I have to say that we just left this amazing space as we're moving into a new place, but you can see it's filled with kind of really interesting kind of objects and things that we keep there to kind of pick our kind of brains and give us kind of slightly kind of weird perceptions of let's say what design can be. The studio is about 240 people big at the moment. We have our main studios in London, and we only have another studio in Shanghai, which we opened just a month ago. So we still, let's say, a fairly small studio in comparison to other kind of firms that have been kind of presenting today. Although small, we do have kind of a very diverse group of people that work in the studio, and we have product designers, interior designers, industrial designers, architects, makers, filmmakers, and of course, computational designers. And we always try to kind of work together, not only thinking about what can happen in terms of a sketch or on a screen, but we try to think in how design can actually hit the real world, and making for us is a crucial part of what we do. In a way, we always try to have this connection between what happens digitally and what's happening physically. The group that I have kind of the luck to work with, we call it Geometry and Computational Design, and currently looks like this. We have a smaller group of, let's say, specialists that kind of have the luck of working not only on projects, let's say normal projects or architectural projects, let's say, but also to focus on applied research projects, and they get some of their time kind of allocated to explore kind of further really interesting ideas and technologies. But we also have a group of people, of designers, that may have, let's say, a particular interest in complexity or a better understanding of it, and also kind of a high level of skills of computation. And they, in a way, lead these kind of complex areas of different projects across the projects that we have in the studio. The main three areas we focus on are, geometry primarily, then where we kind of, do advanced modeling, optioneering generally, rationalization, analysis, and a lot of prototyping. But then we do have, the opportunity to do applied research, where we take some of these ideas further and we try to not only talk or research about one specific project, but more than that, thinking about solutions that can in a way help across different projects and even beyond, at some point beyond the studio. And we do still do a fair amount of knowledge sharing, through kind of talks and workshops and trainings that we do internally and externally. So let's say in terms of geometry, I think maybe a good example of this will be Little Island that, some of you may be familiar, as is located, here in New York. For the people that hasn't had kind of the chance to look at it, I think go and have a walk. It's a nice park. And really the idea came from working with a peer as a series of little kind of objects, using what was there in a way to kick off, this kind of formal idea, as, let's say, cells that can connect, and obviously some of the geometries that may kind of derive from that, are pretty old and, kind of boring for us, like, things like Voronoi and things that are been kind of overtalked for so many years. But really when we come in, is when we can start looking slightly more into detail and trying to understand how we can rationalize these geometries in patterns that can be kind of repeated, and hopefully pave kind of the way to prefabrication, so in this case, for instance, using, the Cairo patterns, and understanding kind of very repetitive geometries, at least in plan, that could, let's say, open only 2 degrees of freedom rather than, being a completely randomized pattern. And this really kind of enabled us to look into more details and really find the expression that materials can give, into these elements. And again, what we try to do very quickly is to take these ideas and prototype them very quickly. Small scale, maybe slightly larger, trying to understand, how different materials may behave. But what we often come up with is a series of very complicated geometries that still, although could be rationalized somehow, will still become kind of a large catalog of one-offs. And because here what we wanted to do was to produce something that was going to be prefabricated and hopefully locally prefabricated, we had to kind of go back to the way we thought through this, and really work with the fabricators here, say in New York, to kind of revise the different kind of patterns we were working in. And really this unlocked for us, for instance, processes as, VE, so going from something as varied as, almost 260 different pots to something that is closer to kind of 130 without actually noticing, only because we not only could control the geometry very well, but also we were able to kind of test, where exactly, in space we will see it or not, the underside of these structures, and this is a one-to-one mock-up that we did in the studio in London. And this is kind of the stuff that we try to do as much as we can across different projects, and really all this kind of workflows for us kind of are unlocking, kind of simple system that can then be applied, on site. And when you have kind of a fairly rationalistic kit of parts, you may be able to achieve kind of these things with at least some level of ease. These are some of the kind of images from the park. I really encourage you guys to have a look. Maybe another good example will be the Maggie's Center in Yorkshire. Maggie's is an institution that works with people that's been diagnosed with cancer, and they try to kind of give emotional support. They're basically the first place that you can go, after you've been diagnosed, and they sit inside hospitals. And this is kind of the site that we were giving, and very kind of briefly, the idea was to kind of take that little green land, and because there is not enough, not much green on the side, we try to just somehow approach it in a way that we could provide both this little kind of shelter for people and some counseling areas, while kind of preserving the green space. On the interior, it looks like this. It's all, or it was all supposed to be timber. So the cores are CLT, and then all the things you see there are glulam. And these particular items, I think, were the most, let's say, complex part of this project. We work closely with Bloom and Lemon in Switzerland to kind of build these pieces, and really all the computational workflows that we put together were trying to always be driven by the fabrication constraints. We even had one person from Bloom and Lemon to sit as part of our team for a couple of months in the studio. Some pictures from the fabrication. Some images as it's now open. One interesting thing about this project is that we use, for instance, game engines not to visualize this, let's say, for a client, but rather for ourselves, just to picture, how a space will look at one-to-one, and how, in this case, the landscape will or not work, So to iterate basically the design options through this was very helpful to get to something, very in a way in a sketch mode like this, to something that could become reality in a similar way. We also do some kind of other tasks, a lot of automation. Obviously, when we deal with kind of large scale projects, we try to automate whatever as much things as we can, from tagging to kind of drawings, controlling different design options through kind of complex curtain wallings and stuff, but always kind of looking into how this complexity can land to a site. Of course, we do a fair amount of environmental analysis as well, and I think for the past years we've been kind of focusing on what happens during the design process, let's say the middle portion of this, so in-house environmental tools, and then kind of with workflows look like this, to kind of what happens beforehand, so before we start designing, and we've been kind of working on a series of tools that help us to understand the different sites we work on as part of the site analysis that we run now before any project starts, and little by little it's been kind of growing across the world depending on the projects that we've been working, and we're looking into something that is becoming a little climate atlas for us, that gives us a very good way of starting a project. We've been also kind of working with AR for XR, including augmented reality in this case, for some years. And again, the key for kind of this type of technologies for us is to understand one-to-one scale. We make a lot, but not enough. It's never enough, So to test more, let's say, options or things that cannot be made, in the studio, we use this type of technologies, And obviously, through the kind of the pandemic year, it was quite key for us to still be able to let's say, make virtually at least, from home or wherever we were, In the way we use it for design, we always try to kind of engage everyone from the studio in this, and even though we may have people that is younger or older, people that, I don't know, sometimes you will think that will not engage with this. It's never the case for us. We always try to make everyone to use these technologies with our team. We're also taking this to site, and again, for us, it's most for kind of the design purposes. So that's one of our technical design leads, and really looking into options for kind of one-to-one mockups, let's say, that are not yet built, and we're now testing with projecting options for mockups that are actually built on top of them. In terms of collaboration, we've been using for quite some time now a tool called Spaceform, which allow you to, let's say, help in a way virtual conversations and meetings with different players and kind of and stakeholders in the project, and allows you to kind of make drawings and comments and everything kind of live in a way while we're kind of designing, and we're also kind of using some of these tools for making. So sometimes we have to make something that cannot be represented bidimensionally. So I know we are not yet ready for stop making drawings, but really some geometries cannot be drawn. And what's been quite keen in the past couple of years is also start working on tools that are not focused on specialists. And the best way to do that to do our job, let's say in the studio, is to make everyone do it for us. So most of the time, when you work on kind of very complicated tools, what happens is that people don't engage because it requires some level of knowledge that they may not have, or just, they will get scared of, I mean, simple stuff like, even Grasshopper files are scary for a lot of people in the studio. So the type of tools that we've been kind of putting together are just, let's say, a Rhino icon that all of a sudden, magically, will give you kind of a lot of real information, out of any massing you may be playing with, and not only extracting metrics, but also allowing you to kind of add more data into your models, all, stuff from like metrics to kind of automatic, again, automated drawing generation or navigation. In terms of AI, and I think I really enjoyed this morning's conversation, our first approach really to working with AI was, through visualization. We thought, like, what's this kind of a very simple kind of process that we do over and over and over again in the studio that requires a lot of time, and it seems like it could be kind of, I don't know, template somehow. It's the way we visualize things, and in our particular case, what we usually do is to do hand sketching, on top of something that has been much more detailed, or could have been much more detailed in 3D. So we're kind of dumbing down, what we've modeled, and that was kind of our first approach to it. Unfortunately, this is the only slide I'm going to be able to show today, but hopefully next year it's going to look much more detailed. But for the past, I don't know, 4 months, or after the explosion of all these diffusion-based models, we've been also looking into those. And I think the value that these platforms bring to the studio are more in line with, how we can leverage this to explore our own design values. So if we care about complexity, if we care about detailing, and we do, optioneering and options after options after options, or we care about materiality, can we, use these tools to expand in a way, the possibilities that you can, or, some of the limitations that time may have, for instance, or to, help you as an extra kind of pair of hands, the kind of the incredible thing about things like stable diffusion is that these are kind of open source software, and they're open for everyone to use. You don't have to pay, anything. You just have to engage with the technology, and you may want to use it, build your own AI UI on top, or tweak it as you like. So it's perfect to explore. So we thought we should kind of explore it, and what we do is working in 3D, and we have our tools that we love, and maybe we don't have enough knowledge in-house to actually leverage these tools in the best way, so we decided to kind of team up with TT just or a month ago to do a quick hackathon. And I think what is key in the work we do is that we're not afraid of collaboration in any way, and because although we still have a small team, we're always trying to kind of push ideas out of the studio so people can kind of play around with them, and hopefully at some point we can also use them. So for instance, here's a stable diffusion-based model, working with our massing in Rhino, where you can kind of add any prompt you want and control a few things, and then wait for a little bit, slightly more than what you will be waiting on this video, and then kind of get, several options back, and really, it's quite fascinating to see. And I think it's not something to be kind of scared of, and I don't think, it's a matter of like, hey, is that option better or worse, or, good or bad, but it's a really good starting point, to have these conversations, and as they become better, and they become 3D, maybe we'll have even kind of more interesting conversations, and finally, we're also kind of doing or using these platforms for analysis, trying to, again, understand the designs we produce from the perspective of our design values, so what are the things that we're looking at when we design something, when trying to extract those, and then use these tools to actually tell us, hey, are we on the right path or not? Or at least, again, to have a bit of a conversation started for, to have more critical thinking. So in essence, we are kind of an internal lab, or a sandbox in the studio, and we care about, exploring ideas, but not only because we like technology, it's because we care about real projects, and in a way, what we do care, on top of everything is to create better human experiences, places that can connect people, and generate emotional engagement, so we do everything from kind of a human-centered point of view, but we have the luck to at least try to look into the future of this. That's what we do. Thanks.